Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel many times before. These guys are one of my favourite Swedish breweries. They're not afraid to try different styles and I've reviewed maybe about 30-35 beers from them already. But this is a style that I've never tried from them before, so I'm quite curious to see how this one turns out. For this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get the Gothenburg catchphrase in with the Gothenburg beers because it is channel tradition these days. And for this one, we're going to head a little bit out to the east of the city to Landvetter, very close to the airport. So that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Bryggeri, and this beer is simply called Pils. So I think you know what style of beer this one is. It comes in at 5% ABV, and apparently at one stage this beer has actually been at 5.2% ABV. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. If memory serves me correctly, this is my first lager beer from Bryggeri, so hopefully it's as good as some of the other things I've had from them over the years. These guys are doing a lot of IPAs these days. You know, I've had barley wines, imperial stouts, you know, fruity sours and things like that. You name it, I've probably had it from Bryggeri, but it was a bit of a surprise to me that I'd never tried a lager beer from them actually. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. I know that they've got a Schwarz beer that they produce fairly regularly, so I might see about getting a bottle of that to review for you at some stage as well. But yeah, a very prolific brewery. They've done lots of different things, and as I said, they're one of the really well respected Swedish craft breweries. So when it comes to Swedish beer, this is a brewery that I would highly recommend that you check out. But yeah, always nice to return to these guys and nice to try different styles from them as well. So I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Bryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Bryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Landvetter, just out to the east of Gothenburg on the Swedish west coast, and this brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal to the south of Gothenburg by Mikael Engström Dugges. So they very recently celebrated their 15th anniversary, so very well established craft brewery these days. But a few years prior to this, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the very admittedly complex Swedish alcohol laws, visited various other breweries around the country, and he started buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, and this culminated with the opening of their new facility, or the first facility I should say, in Mölndal back in 2005. Over the following years they continued to expand this brewery as much as they could, but by 2009 they'd outgrown this original premises, and so they moved over to Landvetter the following year in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity of 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year at maximum, but the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent times. But over the years the brewery have become very well known for lots of different styles. Their fruit and sour beers were always really popular in the early days. You know, Tropic Thunder is one of the kind of classic, the sort of cult classic Swedish craft beers actually, and I would recommend that you try that if you get the chance. They were also very well known for their imperial stouts once upon a time as well, although they still kind of are, but I think the IPAs are starting to become more and more prominent these days. But if you want to try a really good dark beer from Bryggeri, it would be the Egypt, I would recommend, or the Big Egypt, I think as it is now. But they also have various different IPA series these days. There's the Bite series, which is the West Coast IPA series. They've got the Fresh and the Crush, which are New England IPAs, and then they've also got their barrel aging program as well. They've been investing a lot in that in recent times. But the other thing to point out about this brewery is that they're also one of the co-owners in the two Brewers beer bars in Gothenburg. I would recommend that you check out the one on Tredje Långgatan. That is the original one, and I filmed an out and about video there that you can check out. But Dugges Bryggeri co-own that along with All In Brewing, and I think Electric Nurse are also involved in that as well. Electric Nurse is run by Mikael Dugges' daughter Ida and her husband John, and they do some very nice beers as well. I'm not sure if they are officially co-owners or whatever. I do need to kind of ask Dugges about that and just clear that up, because I've never answered that question in all the years that I've been reviewing Electric Nurse and Dugges Bryggeri beers. But yeah, Dugges Bryggeri, as I say, a very, very well respected Swedish brewery. I've had some awesome beers from these guys over the years, and they are a Swedish brewery that I would really recommend you guys watching from abroad check out. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dugges Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'll just like have a little quick look at the artwork before we open it up. As you can see, it is, you know, the typical thing you'd expect from Dugges Bryggeri. It is very, very nicely presented. It says on the side here a little bit, we are Dugges Bryggeri, we love making beer, this is our pils, a straightforward, no fuss, simple yet complex pils, a no nonsense though all sense pils, a clean, crisp and dry pils. Did we say pils? Pils. There you go. So yeah, there is one of the Dugges Bryggeri symbols on the side of the bottle. This sort of strip here is, you know, this sort of strip here is the kind of trademark, if you like, of Dugges, and then there's another wee thing here, it says, you know, crispy and clean. So yeah, you can see plain sort of gold bottle cap on this one. I do wish that Dugges would get black bottle caps just with a D or something on them. I think that's something that they really need to add to their beers. But 330ml bottle, and I think I paid about 25 Swedish kronas for this, so about £2.25 or something like that, €2.50, maybe about $2.75, $3 American, just for those of you watching in different places. But there's a wee bit of sediment on the bottom there, I think. So yeah, we'll see about that when we open it up. But yeah, 330ml bottle, this one. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. Doesn't want to open. There we go. Yep, 5% ABV Pilsner beer, this one. A nice kind of starting beer. I'm going to film a couple of reviews today, so this is the one that we're kicking off with. But in fairness, you can also use a Pilsner beer as a nice kind of palate cleanser, but I think if you do that, you know, that's a kind of session thing to do. I don't really session beers anymore these days, to be honest. It's more about the tasting for me. But yeah, a lot of people tell me, I think it was Massive Matt actually over in the States was telling me he likes to use, you know, Pilsner beers as sort of palate cleansers. So yeah, it's an interesting point for you guys to try, for those of you that still like, you know, that like sessioning the beers. But for me, this is the one, when I do reviews, I like to start with a lager beer or two, and then, you know, progressively get a bit more hoppy, then a bit more malty and things like that. So yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely kind of pale golden straw colour. This is exactly what you would expect of a Pilsner, right enough. You can see when we poured the beer, there was about a half finger of a frothy white head there. That's faded away to just be a very kind of thin foamy layer, and it will soon dissipate fully. But yeah, in terms of Pilsner beers, this is exactly what you would expect in terms of appearance. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. I mean, overall it does look pretty nice, and this one is crystal clear. So remember, the story of the Pilsner beer is that it originated in the city of Pilsen, formerly the Austro-Hungarian Empire, now the Czech Republic, and it was actually a Bavarian brewmaster who went over there, and the very first Pilsner beer in the world was Plzeňský Prazdroj, or Pilsner Urquell as it's known. So yeah, he wasn't a very nice man, and from what I gather, he only lasted about 2 years in Pilsen before he was replaced with a more local brewmaster. But yeah, the Pilsner beer is a lager style beer. Remember, lagers, low temperature fermentation, usually between 10 and 12 degrees, bottom fermenting yeasts as they're known, and yeah, the most popular style of beer in the world. So quite nice to finally get around to tasting one of these from one of my favourite Swedish breweries. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Curious about it. Now, I'm going to say straight away, this beer comes across as really, really authentic. And for me, when it comes to a Pilsner beer, I want them to be, I don't want these beers to do anything crazy. I want them to be authentic, like the things you would drink in the Czech Republic or in Germany. The main difference for me between the Czech Pilsen and the German Pilsner would be that the German ones are a little bit more kind of dry and crisp in a sense, whereas the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more yeasty and kind of bready. And that's a general trait. The lager beers are Czech and German mainly. And that would be the main difference for me. The Czech ones are more yeasty and bready, whereas the German ones are a little bit kind of almost, can we say, cleaner and more crisp and things like that. So you can definitely pick out the nice German crispness out of this one. I would say this beer comes across as being a little bit more sort of German in a lot of ways. So yeah, when you take in the aroma of this beer, it does smell really nice and authentic. Straight away you can get a wee bit of that kind of white bready note underneath, but it's the Pilsner malt that comes out of this one straight away. As I've told you in previous reviews, Pilsner malt is like really annoying to describe because it is more of a kind of vibe that it gives, and that it gives in the aroma, it gives you a really just kind of crisp vibe, and you can smell that straight away. And in the flavour profile as well, it's really just a very kind of crisp thing that it gives you. So yeah, you can smell that with this one straight away. The Pilsner malt comes across as really authentic. It's probably German Pilsner malt they've got in here. But yeah, you do get a wee touch of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing in this one, which I really like. So yeah, the aroma of this beer is really it's really nice in that sense. It's got everything you'd expect from the malty side of things. Crisp, slightly white bready note to it, a lot of kind of nice sweet Pilsner malt, wee bit of biscuity sweetness, and also just a wee bit of that kind of grainy, crackery sort of thing that you'd want. A little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity graininess, if that makes sense. On the hoppy side of things, again, it's what you'd expect. This one will have like Czech Sats or German Hallertauer Tettnanger or something like that. And the other option, of course, would be something from Slovenia. And it does smell a wee bit different, but I'm not sure how old the bottle is. So it could be, Dana or something like that from Slovenia that's in here. Or Styrian Goldings. Because yeah, usually the Czech hops smell a little bit more kind of spicy than this. The Czech Sats, whereas the German ones are a little bit more kind of bright, if that makes sense. So could this be a Slovenian hop that's in here? I'm not sure. I'd love to know what hops they used in it. I had a little look on the website beforehand to see if it told you which hop was in it, because I'm trying to refine my palate a little bit between, to distinguish more between the Czech Sats and the German noble hops, because I feel that that's a bit of a weakness on my part at the moment. But yeah, this one, the green component's interesting. It's got the kind of soft earthiness that you'd expect. There's a wee bit of herbal quality in here. You do have a nice little bit of floral aromaticity. Like I said, it comes across as quite sort of smooth in the aroma, but not spicy like the Czech hops and not madly bright like the German ones. But in fairness, the beer does have a good little bit of grassy quality on the front of the nose, and that's a wee bit zesty. That makes me lean towards saying that it's either Hallertau or Tettnanger that's in this beer. So it has got everything you'd expect from the green component, to be honest, and that's what you want. As I say, for me, when it comes to Pilsner beers, I want them to be authentic, and this beer has everything that you'd want from the style in terms of the aroma. On the fruity side of things, it's again what you'd expect. There's a bit of a kind of peary, appley sort of thing going on with it. Yeah, sometimes you can get like a wee tiny bit of apricot out of these, but I'm tempted just to stick with the peary appley descriptor for this one. And you do get, as I say, a wee touch of a kind of grassy zestiness out of the beer, maybe a wee tiny touch of a slight lemon or something like that. So yeah, it's interesting, this one. As I say, it comes across as very, very authentic in terms of the aroma. So yeah, I'm thirsty. I think it's about time to crack into this beer and see how it tastes. So yeah, this beer, as I said, simply called the Pils, comes in at 5% ABV from one of my favourite Swedish breweries, Dugas Bryggeri and Landvetter, just out to the east of Gothenburg in Sweden. Let's crack into this one then. Slange, skål, cheers. That's nice, actually, yeah. So, first impression of this beer, it's got everything you'd want from a Pilsner. And it's interesting because it starts off really oily. It strikes me in the beginning as a very oily Pilsner. But then you start to get more of the kind of crispness coming out of it a bit later on. So, But even then, it does retain a little bit of that oily note. So you take this beer in, it's really oily, and then you can just feel the dryness of the Pilsner malt coming out of this beer. So yeah, I really like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, thumbs up to Dugas Brewery for this. I think this is a nice Pilsner. Maybe the kind of oiliness that this beer has is that typical sort of Scandinavian thing. You know, I've always said with the Scandinavian beers, they've got a very clean and slightly oily mouthfeel to them, and I think it is just the water here, you know. Scandinavia, like we have back in Scotland, you get very good water quality. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really nice actually. Yeah, this beer has my approval. As you'll know, I've been getting really into my lager beers again over the last little while, and more breweries are doing them. I think it's nice to see that these, you know, German and Czech styles of beer are getting a bit more attention these days. It's all been about the IPAs for a very long time. So it's nice to see that more and more breweries are focusing on lager beers a little bit and doing them well. It's quite a technically demanding style actually. But yeah, let's break down the flavour profile of this one then and describe it for you. So straight away with this beer, you get that nice kind of bready quality that just goes right across the middle of your palate there. I think it did actually say on the website that there was a bit of wheat in this one. Or it did say, well, that might be in the 5.2% version, because this one only says on the bottle that it has barley malt. But in fairness, on the back third of your palate, you do get a fair wee bit of kind of bready character out of this one, which is quite nice. But yeah, straight away across the middle of the palate, you've got a nice, straight away across the middle of your palate there, you've got a really nice kind of, how would you say, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of crisp white bready quality there. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. If you go down the kind of middle line of your palate, that's when you start to get the real kind of Pilsner malty vibe out of this beer. So yeah, you can really feel, if you go just straight down the middle line of your tongue, that's when you get the really crisp kind of notes out of the beer. If you go to the very, very centre of your palate, you can feel there is a wee tiny sort of, there's a wee tiny bit of a kind of concentrated brown sugary sort of thing. That's the alcohol flavours coming out of the beer, of course, that's giving you that. But yeah, you do get a wee bit of that as you move further out from that very kind of epicentre, if you like, of the kind of brown sugary notes. You can feel that the beer just gets gradually crisper and crisper, and you get more and more of that sort of grainy McVitie's digestive sort of thing out of it. So that's something that I can really appreciate about this beer, I have to say. So yeah, I mean, it's a very, it's a very straight up beer, this one, and as I said, it doesn't do anything surprising with the style, but it's just nicely crafted. Actually, it is very, very nicely crafted. And a lot of these breweries in Sweden, a lot of the breweries that you see me review regularly have really nice pilsners. I mean, Old Brewing over in Gothenburg have done a few lager beers. One of the best lager beers I've had in Sweden so far was the Skånsk lager from Hyllie Bryggeri. Those guys really know what they're doing when it comes to the lager beers. So yeah, I really like their stuff as well. So it's nice, as I say, I've had so many beers from Dugas over the years, but this is just a style that I've never come across, and it just kind of goes to show you they can do these things. I'd love to see them do like a Dunkel or a Doppelbock or something. They probably have done these, and I've just not got them, because there are a few of the Dugas beers that just don't come into Systembolaget. So, and in Sweden, if that's the case, you can't get them because you're not allowed to buy them out of the pubs. Some people will let you do that, but they're not supposed to. But yeah, I like this one. I do like how it goes together. It's straight shooting, like I said. So a little bit of bread, a lot of kind of Pilsner malt Christmas straight down the middle line of your tongue, sweet kind of brown sugary note in there, and then a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing there too. But if you go to that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, there's a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty quality, and on the back third of your palate you can feel there's a little bit of a more kind of grainy, almost brown bready sort of thing, but at the same time it strikes me as being, the kind of crispness from the Pilsner malt as well. So the back third of your palate does have a real kind of crispness to it, which is quite nice actually. But yeah, it feels a little bit thicker on the back third of your palate, and then, as I say, as you come further forward, the thickness just drops away as you reach that border region, and then you've got a nice kind of smooth layer just kind of sitting on top of that then. So on the front third of your palate, as I always say, that's where you get the nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And then if you go to the if you go to the border region there between front third and middle third of your palate, again you've got a wee bit of a sort of bread crusty pilsner malt crispness kind of thing coming out of the beer. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. So yeah, the aroma, the flavour, sorry, out of this beer I think goes together really nicely. So the base of the fruity part of the beer is quite, you know, crisp and pilsner malty again. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, again you've got a nice wee kind of citrusy note there. You do get a nice wee kind of slightly more concentrated, kind of almost lemony citrus sort of thing. But as you move further forward there, that's when you start to get the more kind of peary esters out of the beer. So yeah, there's some really nice sort of peary esters coming out of this beer for sure. But yeah, as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, you get a bit more of a kind of appley note out of the beer, and then on the very kind of front tip you've got a bit of a lemony kind of grassy zestiness coming out of the beer. So yeah, I mean, this beer gives you everything that you would want in terms of a pilsner beer, to be honest with you. As I say, that's the mouthfeel that kind of makes this one a little bit different. But as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste, it does get more and more kind of crisp actually. So I like it. I do like what they've done with this one. So well done to Dugas Brewery for this. It kind of shows you these guys, just how capable these guys are, that they can pull off a lager beer like this. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, I would say that this beer is, you know, it's kind of top end of light bodied, bottom end of full bodied. The carbonation does have a wee bit of crispness to it, like I say, quite an oily beer within that kind of pilsner category in my mind, but as I say, it gives you the kind of the sort of crispness that you would want from the style. In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, I think this one's probably a kind of 25 IBU beer. Yeah, I think 25 IBUs. Maybe 20-25 IBUs is probably about right for this one. The malt base is nice and smooth, little touch sweet. As I said, you've just got a nice little bit of a kind of oily, fruity character coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, this one gets a thumbs up from me. I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you here, and yeah, the fruity notes, it's nice and oily, and it's just got a wee bit of that zesty quality as well. This is a beer that's kind of grown on me a little bit. To be honest with you, it's one that I can drink more and more of. My only complaint about this would probably be that it's a 330ml bottle rather than a half-litre bottle. But you know, that's the standard for Dugas. This isn't a style they brew too often, so we can't be too harsh on them for that. But I'm firmly of the opinion that lager beers need to be 440s or half-litre cans, or bottles of course. But yeah, I would stick with that kind of prognosis for this. But a nicely done pilsner beer, and I would be curious to try a few of the other lager beers that Dugas have done. I know that they've done a Schwarzbier, so I'll see if I can get a bottle of that at some stage for you. But yeah, this was a really interesting one, and I'm glad that I was able to review it for you here on the channel. So let's leave it at that for just now then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dugas Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point soon. I've got 2 or 3 beers, I think, to review from their Systembolaget releases over this month, so you can look forward to those. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Dugas Brewery, one of my favourite Swedish breweries, and I will catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Slanje, skål, cheers.